So now we're going to talk about the biggest problems that people will run into when they're using a gauge. And it's important to experiment with these so that you can see them for yourself, so when you see these problems you know what they are. The first one is the moving tube problem. So all we do is we take this tube and we move it around, and you'll notice on the display here that it's changing quite a bit. It's changing as much as 2 pascals just by moving the tube around. And this is something that might occur if your tube was outside and was elevated and the wind was actually moving your tube around, or the tube was, say, somehow unsupported in doing this. You definitely don't want this kind of thing, so that your tube must be secure. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the old pinch tube problem. And I've seen people close tubes indoors and see the effects of a pinch tube. So if we were to pinch this tube right now, you notice that the pressure goes up. And it doesn't really matter what kind of pressure is applied on the end of the tube. It doesn't pay any attention to it. So if we're to blow in the end of this tube, it doesn't do anything. The pressure that the gauge is seeing is between here and the gauge, and the air has been compressed in this piece of tube, so it doesn't pay any attention to it. So that's critical. The other thing that can happen is if our tube is pinched and we plug it into the gauge, that right away we'll see a big positive pressure. And we see that, we know we have a pinched tube problem. So other problems that we'll often run into is the water in the tube problem. Now earlier we showed us dipping a tube into the water and creating a pressure, but if we have a water drop in the end of our tube here, it will actually create a pressure, and I'll just show you. So what I've done here is I've got a water drop in the end of the tube, and look at that, I've got a 15 pascal pressure there. You can see the water drop just dropped off, and I think the water drop is still in there. And if we change it from going up or down, it should change the pressure. There, the pressure's gone up. The gauge will actually work and appear to be giving readings, and in order to get water in the tube, all you have to do is just to drag it over a puddle of water, just touch it like that, and the water's in the tube. Very important to make sure that we never get any water in the end of these tubes. So I'm going to demonstrate some wind problems here. We've got a fan running here quite slowly. Air is coming out here and it's being sucked in there. So this is kind of analogous to the wind. It seems like about a 5-mile-an-hour wind that we've got going there. So we're just going to take our tube here and hang it in the wind stream, and you'll notice that the pressure is going to a pretty high positive value. It's also bouncing around. It went to plus 6.5, plus 10.2, plus 12.7, and so on. Now, if I put it on the inlet side where I have a suction pressure, which would be on equivalent to the downwind side of the house, I have a big negative pressure there. So we can see that the wind has a huge effect on the reading on our gauge.